Where are you going?
Back to Stoneface. See what he's got in his eye.
Wait a minute.
Y'all, this is tomfoolery, and yeah, that was Shannen Doherty, and this has got to be one of the most obscure shows I've come across so far, and if you've never heard of it, that's probably because a single sentence is the only description found on the internet, and most of the media is lost, but I didn't let that stop me. After hours and hours and then some more hours, I seriously spent entirely too much time on this, I was able to find every episode in German. Apparently it's very popular in Germany, but I dug deeper because one, YouTube's German to English auto-translate isn't the greatest, and two, I'm tenacious, and I do it for you. So somehow I was able to find most of the show in English, hidden amongst another show, we'll discuss this later. Then using the German episodes to fill in any missing gaps, I pieced together this entire mini-series and discovered a pretty solid mystery, some fun adventure, and stereotypical late 80s views of Native Americans, but Disney, am I right? Anyway, let's talk about Das Geheimnis von Lost Creek. Sorry, let's talk about the secret of Lost Creek. Now, before we get started, thank you so much for watching. I post new videos when I do, so if you enjoy revisiting television of decades past, be sure to share, like, subscribe, and notification bell this video to see more videos like this one. Quick shout out to Miss the Good Days for suggesting this show, and if anyone has any other obscure or underrated 90s television they'd like me to cover, comment it down below, I'll add it to my list, then do my best to find it. Now, let's dive right on in. The secret of Lost Creek is about two siblings, Jeannie and Robert, reluctantly sent to stay in the country town of Lost Creek with their grandparents for the summer. Upon arrival, Robert gets fixated on a Bigfoot sighting, and Jeannie gets obsessed with the mystery surrounding hidden treasure. From there, adventure ensues. Now, I've gotta say, the mystery of how and where the show aired is nearly as captivating as the mystery within the show itself. So, before I take you through the series breakdown, I gotta give you some brief history and set the nostalgic vibe.
We'll be showing you the next episode of our club movie, The Secret of Lost Creek. That's right, but first, it's time to be serenaded by the soothing sounds of the super sensational Mickey Mouse Club Choir.
While most sources say the show premiered in February of 1992, ending March that same year with a total of 5 episodes, The Secret of Lost Creek originally premiered on October 30th, 1989, ending December 1st with a total of 15 episodes. Let me explain. In 1989, the Mickey Mouse Club returned from its 10-year hiatus under its updated title, the all-new Mickey Mouse Club, and very original. I know. While I was still familiar with it, personally, the whole Mickey Mouse Club thing was never my vibe, but if for some reason you have no idea what I'm talking about, the Mickey Mouse Club was a variety show that catered towards kids and teens that ran intermittently from 1955 to 1996, making a short-lived return to social media back in 2017. If you're familiar with the likes of Britney Spears, Carrie Russell, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, or Ryan Gosling, the all-new Mickey Mouse Club is where they got their start, so there's some trivia to tell friends at parties. Now, this variety show would include various segments such as music videos, comedy sketches, live performances, or the Mickey Mouse Club movie, and that's where The Secret of Lost Creek comes in. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 5 weeks, The Secret of Lost Creek aired mini episodes ranging 6 to 8 minutes long that would be featured as the Mickey Mouse Club movie. Each episode would begin being introduced with a couple Mouseketeers recapping the previous episode and then end with a cliffhanger, to be continued style, and I actually think this was a genius move and a bit ahead of its time. Every episode was just long enough to pull the young viewer in, yet short enough to keep their attention, then leave them wanting more with some sort of shocking ending. But enough of the history lesson. Prepare yourselves for an overload of mullets, one person of color in this entire town, and let me walk you through 1989's The Secret of Lost Creek.
All this exciting stuff is going on. You guys want me to write about stuff that happened 50 years ago.
The show opens on a bus, introducing us to Jeannie Fogel, a city girl unimpressed by nature, and Robert Fogel, her little brother who literally takes pictures of everything. We're also briefly introduced to Adelaide and Augusta Murchison, two elderly sisters and residents of Lost Creek that actually play important roles later. Now, when the bus conveniently pulls over due to overheating, Robert, being the curious little scamp he is, finds himself in the woods where he sees a creature that resembles Bigfoot. But when he tries to snap a photo, he's out of film, so no one believes him when he tries to spread the word, and I hate when that happens. Once the siblings arrive in Lost Creek, it's painfully clear this isn't Jeannie's ideal vacation spot. So, attempting to make things more interesting, Grandpa Fogel hires her to work at the town paper as he owns it and she has journalistic aspirations. This is also where we're introduced to Charlie, a Native American resident of Lost Creek and an employee at the paper. So while Charlie and Robert become photo buddies, Jeannie reluctantly accepts the reporter position, her job to go through past issues of the newspaper, then writing a column about anything she finds interesting. I'm finding weird parallels between what me and Jeannie do. Anyway, while going through old newspapers, Jeannie comes across a headline about some hidden treasure, but is interrupted by the door creaking open and a dark figure lurking behind her, thus concluding the first episode. Now, if you ask me, it looks like these were intentionally shot as mini episodes, then later stitched together to become a full 24 minutes, because when the next episode picks up, there are additional angles and lines of dialogue. Now, I could be wrong and these are simply alternate takes, but I'd assume the creative team would be aware of this mini structure before beginning production. So that dark figure is revealed to be Travis Hathaway, another employee of the paper with a supreme mullet and what I guess the kids of the late 80s would call a dreamboat. Travis is then invited to lunch, where Grandpa gets triggered when Jeannie brings up the hidden treasure. Then, since obvious city girl, country boy love story has to love story, Jeannie and Travis share some bonding scenes, going from their rough introduction to fast friends driving around and eating ice cream together. It's here Travis reveals the lost treasure is rumored to be Old Homer's gold, and Jeannie's interest is piqued when Old Homer's last name is revealed to be Murchison, the same as those women on the bus from before. So Jeannie and Travis jump on the case, heading over to interview them. Here, Adelaide and Augusta confirm the existence of a 20-pound gold nugget hidden out in the mountains, which, based on my calculations, would roughly be $110,000 at the time. So instead of leaving a treasure map, old Grandpa Homer left a set of rhymes or riddles that lead to its location. So the lovely old ladies give him the deets. Here we go. Middle of the night was dark and dank when I put my treasure in the Lost Creek bank. Nearest to the bank, find the tallest tree. 5 paces east, my treasure be. Sasquatch watches and never sleeps. He will see my treasure keeps. Below the talking waters where the grade is not so steep, Lost Creek hushes, swirls about, and gently falls asleep. And when the ox is born one day, my treasure on his back shall lay. Whew, okay. Why'd old Homer leave rhymes instead of a map? Maybe he just preferred a little snazzy rap. Anyway, Jeannie excitedly writes up the first 2 rhymes and print in her nostalgia column, but Grandpa refuses to publish it because he doesn't want the town to go gold crazy like they did back in the gold rush days. But at the end of the day, when everyone leaves, Charlie accidentally finds a story and publishes it anyway. Meanwhile, Robert is off in the woods roaming about when he makes a friend, a little boy named Rusty who just lives in the mountains, I guess. So naturally, they go explore the old gold mines because kids. Then, unbeknownst to them, always wanted to say that, they're followed by a creepy dude with unconvincing facial hair, eventually called Blackbeard. So that's what we'll call him now. To my surprise, there are actually some well-crafted spooky scenes in the gold mine after their lantern goes out, resulting in Robert having to use the flash on his camera to illuminate their way to the exit. But honestly, this entire plotline felt forced and was just a way to introduce Rusty, show us the gold mine, and throw in Blackbeard as a creep that follows kids. Anyway, the next day, the papers get delivered and everyone from the local teens to what I can only assume to be the town drunks go gold crazy, while Blackbeard continues to wave creep flags. Back at the paper store, P.T. Butler, who I assume to be like the bank manager or something, barges in angry with Grandpa for publishing the treasure riddles to show him how the town has begun digging holes 5 paces to the east of the tallest tree in front of the town bank. When Grandpa scoffs at how wrong everyone has the rhyme, Travis realizes the truth and quickly leaves with Jeannie, taking her to the Lost Creek River where the bank must actually be. But there are so many trees, so they gotta figure out the rest of the riddle because they got the gold fever now too. Back at the paper place, the townsfolk rage for the final 3 riddles, so Grandpa just gives it to them because they won't figure it out anyway. Why? Because Grandma Fogel reveals the truth. Back in Grandpa's prime, he had the gold crazies and was able to figure out every riddle except for the last one. So that explains why he was so triggered and dead set against publishing the story in the first place. He knows firsthand what gold fever can do to the mind. So the entire family decides to take their minds off the treasure and go to the town dance where, what in the cow-tipping country folk hell? This scene existing purely as an opportunity to introduce 2 new characters. Cammy, I guess kinda Travis's girlfriend but not really, and then Hardy, an aggressive guy Jeannie tosses attention at to make Travis jealous because she's jealous of Cammy. Got it? Great. Cammy all but calls Jeannie a slut because she's showing some city girl shoulder, and Travis gets into a fight with Hardy because testosterone, while the boys let the animals out in the barn because it's hilariously funny for some reason. Anyway, the next day at the newspaper shop, our favorite Native American friend has a theory as to where the Sasquatch watches but never sleeps part of the riddle is, but it's a day's hike and an overnight stay up the mountains, which makes this city girl a little nervous, but because she's hooked on getting to the bottom of this story and got the gold fever, she hesitantly agrees. Then once she gets Grandpa's ominous approval, she, Charlie, Travis, Robert, and Cammy, who invites herself because she isn't letting Jeannie take her man into the mountains unsupervised, head up the trail to Old Stoneface, which according to Charlie,
white men calls it Stoneface, but the Indians call it Sasquatch.
After everyone gets settled in and there's some girl drama, Charlie leads everyone to the river rapids, which equate to the talking waters part of the riddle. Once there, the gang departs down to where the grade is not so steep, coming upon the hushed Lost Creek, where it gently falls asleep. They're getting closer! From there, they spot the tallest tree and everybody gets giddy with excitement. Well, except for Charlie, because it's quiet. A little too quiet. Turns out the town drunks beat them there and are digging up dirt, but with no success. So to spook them, Charlie makes creepy calls which scares the men away because they think it's the ghost of the sacred Native American land they're digging up. Yeah. Anyway, Rusty conveniently shows up because story purposes, so in the middle of the night, the boys sneak off to find Bigfoot. There's actually some legit danger, peril, and adventure in this episode, and I genuinely appreciate that. Jeannie wakes up, realizes the boys are gone, so she and Travis rush out to find them. I'm not really sure what Charlie's supposed to be doing here because it's never really explained, but let's just say he's meditating. In the meantime, Robert and Rusty are nearly hit by a truck driving through the mountains, then get attacked by some creature in the woods. This time, Robert snaps a pig just in time before fleeing back to camp. Cut back to Jeannie and Travis. They're searching for the boys when Jeannie spots something weird in Old Stoneface's eye right before falling a solid 20 feet into the raging rivers below. Now, this is the episode 8 cliffhanger, and episode 9 just begins the next day, completely explaining the previous night's events away with, yeah, you almost drowned, good thing I saved you though. Anyway, no one believes Robert saw a truck or Bigfoot, and no one believes Jeannie saw a light coming from Old Stoneface, so they just head back to town. Blackbeard is meeting with Grandpa when the gang returns, overhearing the Bigfoot fiasco, which gets Jeannie's spidey senses tingling. Then once the photo is developed, it's inconclusive, so Grandpa just files it away with Blackbeard snooping outside the window, really hammering in the creep factor. When Jeannie and Robert get home, Hardy, that random boy from the hoedown or whatever, is waiting there to greet Jeannie, and isn't it weird that this is what people would do before cell phones were a thing? Like, just wait at your house unannounced? Like a stalker? So he hears about the Bigfoot picture too, and I mention this because after a short bonding scene between Jeannie and Grandpa, someone breaks into the newspaper factory to steal the Bigfoot photo. And who is it? Well, none other than the Hardy boy, but Blackbeard is also there, snooping and watching it get stolen for some reason. The next day, Jeannie thinks the photo robbery has to be Blackbeard and wants to write about it, but Grandpa, Travis, and Charlie are against it because it could cause more chaos in town, so she settles on just taking the cash deposit to the bank instead. There, she catches a glimpse of Hardy meeting with that PT Butler guy, and when he approaches her, warning her to stay out of the woods because it could be too dangerous, I instantly figured out what was going on. But because she doesn't, she rushes to tell Travis about the strange rendezvous. Feeling even more determined now, Jeannie commits to returning to Old Stoneface to find the truth behind the mysterious light in his eye, and Travis tags along. Now, when they return, and keep in mind we were told this is a day's hike, it's too dark and rocky in the cave, so they just hang out for a bit and chat, making sure that we take notice of the fact that Jeannie takes notice of a lake that she didn't know existed. That's literally all this scene is, and then they just return back to town. Back in town, it's Gold Rush Days or something, and that comes along with a parade, problematic Native American references at the festival, and a woodcutting contest. Jeannie notices Blackbeard in the crowd and in full Lois Lane fashion follows him. Then, really discovering nothing but the fact that his entire role has been snooping around looking suspicious, she returns to the festival to tell Travis. Now, I didn't mention this, but for the Gold Rush Days thing or whatever, every dude is supposed to wear this fake Amish beard looking thing, and because Travis didn't, he gets thrown into pretend festival jail just so we can have a scene where Jeannie and the boys break him out later. When this show isn't adventuring, it's really just kinda silly. Anyway, through some casual conversation, Jeannie discovers that the lake I mentioned wasn't always there and actually formed naturally from the Lost Creek River. Remember that. Then it's not really explained when, how, or why, but I guess the boys come across the same truck that nearly ran them over a couple nights back and show Jeannie. Then while spying on it, they see Hardy and some goons loading boxes and then driving off. Back at the newspaper boutique, Jeannie makes some geological connections, figures out the last rhyme, then rushes back to the festival. After they break Travis out of pretend prison, Jeannie reveals that an oxbow lake is a type of lake that forms from a river, thus being the ox that's born one day from the riddle. Naturally, she and the gang return to Stoneface, again this being a day's hike, find the tallest tree from the lake shore, take 5 paces east, begin digging, and hooray! They hit something and pull out a treasure chest. Low-key, I got really excited when this happened. Now, once it's opened, it seems like there's only old clothing and mining equipment, but to their surprise, there's also a huge 20-pound nugget of gold in there. But before they can celebrate, Bigfoot bursts from the bushes, chasing them away, causing them to drop the treasure in terror. So it's a bit obvious at this point, but once Bigfoot quits chasing them, they return to find the gold nugget gone. When Jeannie notices light coming from Old Stoneface again, she and Travis leave the boys to investigate. Robert and Rusty, of course, go anyway, taking an alternate route, getting captured by the men from the truck that nearly ran them over. Meanwhile, Jeannie and Travis explore the cave, coming upon a group of men illegally mining for gold when Hardy, dressed in a Bigfoot costume, delivers the 20-pound gold nugget to none other than PT Butler, the bank manager and guy behind this entire operation. Now, when Robert and Rusty are also delivered to this Butler dude, Hardy removes his costume and conveniently places it where Jeannie and Travis are hiding it, becoming the key to their escape and rescue. Travis takes the costume, puts it on with the intention of distracting Butler and Hardy, which is kinda dumb because it doesn't even work, so an all-out brawl breaks out where Butler drops the gold nugget and Robert bites a guy who drops a lantern and it causes a fire. As the bad guys flee because they've been loading dynamite into the gold mine, Blackbeard shows up and runs in to help. He quickly gets everyone out and far away to safety just as the dynamite explodes in what looks like some pretty legit practical effects for a late 80s kids show. From there, PT Butler, Hardy, and the illegal gold mining goons get arrested, and back at the newspaper outlet, all the characters with speaking roles go through the treasure box, deciding to donate the stuff to the Historical Society as artifacts. But we're not done yet. Remember Blackbeard? Well, he disappeared in the explosion, and to the gang's surprise, he reappears without the black beard as an FBI agent to thank the kids for their help. Apparently, he's been investigating the illegal mining operation, which led him to all the Bigfoot stuff, which explains all the snooping. And if you haven't put it together yet, PT Butler was mining for gold illegally, then using Hardy in the Bigfoot costume to scare locals away so they wouldn't get caught, which then explains why Hardy had to steal the picture Robert took of his close encounter with Bigfoot. The truth is revealed, adventure over, and mystery solved. Oh, and also the gold nugget gets lost in the explosion, so no one even gets that. We close on Jeannie going from city girl to nature lover, reflecting on how exciting her trip to Lost Creek has turned out to be, making plans with Travis, coming to visit her in Chicago one day right before the two finally kiss, thus concluding the entire series.
Wow, talk about action.
And that was The Secret of Lost Creek, everybody. Not gonna lie, it was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it'd be, especially because there isn't much about it on the internet and it doesn't appear to have a huge American following. Regardless, I attribute that enjoyment to a fairly well-crafted mystery, decent acting, and fun adventure. It was also shot on location in Utah, so that successfully set up the small town vibe while simultaneously feeling larger with wide landscape shots capturing the mountainous terrain. And like I mentioned, there were also some instances where characters felt like they were in genuine peril, and for its target demographic being, let's say, 8 to 16, I found that super effective. Especially with scenes like these. Now, while I think most of the actors did great in their roles, Shannen Doherty by far shines as the best performance for me. And while the story can feel a bit Scooby-Doo at times with forced moments that simply existed as location setup or character introductions, I think it works wonderfully as an adventure mystery for kids. In fact, the mystery is one of the reasons I tried so hard to find all the episodes. I legitimately wanted to find out how it all turned out, what the riddles meant, and whether or not they ended up finding the gold. And on that same topic of the gold, I actually like that they found the treasure, but no one ends up actually keeping it, averting expectations, because I most certainly thought Jeannie and Travis were gonna come across the gold nugget in the creek at the end. But to my surprise, the story is more of a commentary about greed and how chasing money or fortune brings out the worst in people, and I'm really impressed by the genuine care put into crafting this story because that's sometimes overlooked in kids' television. And I definitely didn't expect that sort of quality going into a show that only aired 6 to 8 minute episodes at a time. That said, is it perfect? Absolutely not. The love story felt a bit inauthentic, and the lack of representation and outdated views of Native Americans certainly makes it a product of its time. But for its target audience, it delivers a nice message, a captivating mystery, and pretty solid performances, so I do think The Secret of Lost Creek deserves a little more recognition because the quality was definitely ahead of its time.
You know, working at the newspaper is turning out to be a lot more interesting than Jeannie thought it would.
Alright, thanks so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end. I know this was a long video. Do you remember the show? I was like 3 when it originally aired, so it was definitely before my time, but if you watched it, drop your thoughts down in the comments along with any other shows you think I'd be interested in covering. Up next would be a retrospective for my brother and me, and I actually got a chance to talk to one of the show's creators, so I'm really looking forward to that. Then the Brothers Garcia, because there's a reboot in the works, followed by videos for season 3 of The Secret World of Alex Mack and the entire Taina series. As far as Disney goes, Jet Jackson and So Weird are still queued up, so I'm excited to revisit those as soon as I find some spare time, which is impossible. So while you wait for those, feel free to stick around, click some buttons, hang out, and check out the rest of my videos here. Go ahead and follow me on social, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up, it really helps me out, then subscribe with a side of notification bell. Until next time, shine on, you crazy diamonds.